Welcome back. In the previous step, we enhanced the login component to make use of the authentication service. When a user logs in, the login component would talk to the authentication service and find out if the user is an authenticated user. For now, we have hard-coded logic. What we want to do is we would want to enable and disable these links based on whether a user is already logged in or not. And to be able to do that, we need to be able to check if a user is already logged in. For each of these links, I should be able to check, is user logged in? Is user logged in? The thing is, right now, we don't really have a way to store the fact that the user has already logged in. What we'll do is we'll use something called session storage. You'd see that session storage is something which is associated with the browser window. It allows us to access the session storage object. It's actually very similar to something else called local storage. However, session storage is just limited to this browser session. When you close and come back, the session storage is refreshed. What we'll do is when a user logs in, we'll put some content into the session storage. And for all other purposes, we'll keep checking if the session storage contains the authenticated user. Let's see how to do that in this specific step. Now, let's go to the authenticate method, and over here, if the login is successful, what I would want to do is session storage dot set item. I would want to say authenticated user, comma, username. What would happen? Whenever a user is authenticated, the authenticated user is set into the session storage. Now let's do it again in 28 minutes. Dummy login. What happens now is we are logged in. If you do a right click inspect, if you go to the applications tab, you'd see that there are a number of kinds of storages: local storage, session storage. The session storage that we were talking about is this. This is specific to this browser session. If you close the browser and come back, then whatever information is in here is lost. If you expand this particular session storage, you'd see that for our URL localhost 4200, we have something stored in here in 28 minutes. So you can see the value which is stored into the local storage. And based on this, we would want to enable these menu items. How can we do that? What we'll do is we'll start with creating a simple method. We'll call this is user logged in. What we'll do is we'll try and get the item from the session storage. So let's get the item from the session storage. So session storage dot get item of this. What do we need to check? User is equal to this. We'll say let user is equal to this specific thing, and we will check if user is equal to null. If user is equal to null, then user is not logged in. What we'll do is we'll say not of user is equal to null. What I'll do now is I'll go here and right click and clear this out. So let's clear this out. So what we are doing is we are clearing the value out from the session storage. So we don't really have anything in there. What I'll do is I'll check this method before and after authentication. So what I'll do is console.log is user logged in. We should say this dot user logged in, and what we'll do is we'll do the same thing after calling. So I'll call this before and I'll call this after. Let's leave a space here as well. Let's go back to the login page. In 28 minutes, login. So now it says invalid credentials because the thing is invalid, and you can see is before false. Because it says before false, this does not get executed, so the value is not set into session storage. So if you look at application session storage, there are no values which are present in here. If I say dummy and say login, let's see the console. You can say before false and after true. So now it's set in. So the value is already inside the session storage. Let's look at it right now. Application. you can see that session storage has a value called in 28 minutes. So we are able to authenticate, we are able to set it into the session, and in the next steps we will use this information, we'll use this method to do a lot more stuff around the user login. I'll see you in the next step. Until then, bye bye.